darkness cannot hide from the cleansing light. This is the time of the setting of the fruit, which shall grow and ripen until the autumn. Now begins the time of increasing and burgeoning growth, which will see its fulfillment as the lady turns her silver wheel. Of all the festivals of the year, Beltane is the most joy-filled. With the last touch of hard winter gone, and all of the promise of spring ahead, with the first labor of sowing completed, lambs in the fold, calves in the field, and young foals frisking at the heels of their mothers, there is time to take a joyful breath and celebrate before the labors of the summers begin. Now is the time for music and dance, for flirtation and dalliances in the warm spring night, and who knows, for the breathless touch of love. That was from a Celtic book of days. I'm Reverend Charlotte Arsenault, and I have the privilege of serving as minister here at Georgia Mountain's UU Church. For those of you who may be visiting for the first time, I also want to wish you a warm welcome. Tomorrow is May 1st, May Day, which has several important things associated with it. The first is International Workers' Day, a day to reflect on the importance of laborers and the working classes. But it's also, and originally, a time to celebrate Beltane. One of the 6 sources of wisdom from which we draw, which is not up here actually, includes earth-centered traditions. This includes paganism, and so today we celebrate an important pagan holiday, Beltane. For those unfamiliar with pagan traditions, I hope you will allow yourself to experience the joy and the beauty of the rituals, regardless of whether or not it might reflect your own personal spirituality. You'll notice the order of service today looks very different, and I assure you this is just a one-time thing. As we enter into service today, know this: you are just where you should be. In this sacred space, where everyday matters cannot penetrate. Time stretches out and embraces us, but we are unperturbed. Come, there is much to explore together. Our chalice lighting today is by Reverend Robert Fulghum, who you might know as the author of Everything We Need to Know We Learned in Kindergarten. He was a UU. We come to this place because we need each other. We need to see each other. We need to touch each other. We need to smell each other. We need to hug each other. We need each other, so we come to this place. We come to work, to talk, to sing, to laugh, to dance. We call this a religious community, not because the sanctuary is holy ground, but because what we do here, what we say here together, and what we are here makes it a sacred gathering. Please stand in body or in spirit and join me in singing hymn number 1067, Mother Earth, Beloved Garden, located in your teal hymnal.
Treasure
directions, but we're going to do a formal version of that too. But first we have to cast a circle. As required by most pagan rituals, we must first cast a circle. There are many reasons one might do so, but today we do so to create a sacred space, much like lighting a chalice light that we do traditionally. So please take the hand of the person beside you, or if you can't reach or don't really feel like touching, just try to imagine in your head that you are connected to the person beside you. And repeat after me. From my heart to your heart, I cast this circle.
From my heart to your heart, I cast this circle.
Blessed be our circle is cast. We are between worlds, and with each breath we take, we nourish our circle in love and light. You can release if you'd like. Keep holding on. I was going to say,
Enough of that.
Okay. So now we call the directions, and we've done this before several times, at least since I've been here. So if you'd like to stand and face the directions as I call them, that would be wonderful. Guardians of the East, which is the white candle, face this way. Spirits of air, open my mind to the promise of summer. Fill my lungs, carry my thoughts. Help me to understand my place in the great circle, even as I offer to you a place in my circle here. Another red candle. Guardians of the South, spirits of fire, inspire me to seek out my own rebirth. Warm my blood, excite me to action. Help me to experience the passion of living as I invite you here to remind me of your place in my life. And the West. Guardians of the West, spirits of water, guide my roots to the source of life. Nurture my compassion, bathe my wounds, help me to heal the world by my love, as I ask you here to share in the healing of my heart. And the North. Guardians of the North, spirits of earth, keep me safe in the arms of our mother. Be firm in my youth and gentle in my aging. Help me to find the wisdom in nature as I welcome you to support my steps on the path of the wise. Okay. You may be seated. And finally, invoking of the goddess and god. We invoke the goddess and the god as Beltane is a celebration of the union of goddess and god to each other. Goddess of the flowering earth, with you I feel the blooming within us. As the world once more is wrapped in warmth and light, I thank you for new birth, for a world awash in fertility and creation. Come into my circle as I celebrate you and greet you in all that lives. God of the summer sun, with you I feel the light within us. As the world once more explodes with life, I thank you for your passion, for the glory of the lengthening day. Come into our circle as I celebrate you and greet you in all that lives.
Everything. This is the point poem that I think many of you will recall was one of Pat's favorites. And we've been reading it here now for quite a few years. The poem is Forsythia by Billy Collins. It caught my eye a while ago, lit up against the gloom of the woods in the corner of a wild field, the pulsing color of caution. And now I have spent a little time on this stone wall, watching its fire flare out of the earth. I begin to think about the long chronicle of Forsythia, how these same flowers have blazed through the centuries, roused from the ground by the churning of spring. I would rather not look around the next corner of the year to see how this will die. Its lights going out, its bare, 8 arching branches waving like whips in the bitter wind. So I sit facing the past, letting my feet dangle over the wall, beating time against stone with my heels as the long gray clouds roll over me. Remember how Arsenault by the channel thought of Sophocles, who must have heard the same shore sounds long ago, walking by the edge of the Aegean. Well, I am holding in the palm of my thoughts all the others who once were stopped, like me, by this brightness, this sulphuric cry for help. Women in tunics, women gathered by a well, men in feathers, men swimming by a river, all speaking languages I will never know, saying the different words for its color. As I feel the syllables of yellow form in my mouth and hear the sound of yellow fill the morning air.
For those of you who don't know, I think this is our first time reading that since Pat has left us. Very tender. Generosity is a spiritual discipline. And because of your generosity this morning, we have this warm and welcoming and wonderful building to enter. A choir to uplift us and lead us in our songs. Staff to help spiritually nourish us, and a beloved community to inspire us. Let us continue the important work of our mission as we now accept the offering.
No baskets?
No baskets.
Let me go on downstairs.
Play, Roy, play.
Take your time, I'm gonna play 3 more times.
Circle round for peace, for
Let us spend some time in silence, reflecting, meditating, praying, or simply being present in this moment. For those of you that are on Facebook, you may have seen my ongoing struggles with being a proper adult. Lately, this struggle has been centered on how to create and care for a garden. That's right, I don't know the basics. In my search for wisdom regarding all things green, I inquired about when I might be able to confidently purchase some new flowers for the yard. And I was told that no one should do this before April the 15th, or they risk losing their new plants to a late frost. In considering, so wise words, as about the 10th we had, you guessed it, a late frost. Wise words. In considering the timing of Beltane, it makes sense then that the festival, which is not quite a welcoming of spring, but rather a celebration of the beginning of the most fertile season of the year, traditionally occurs halfway between the spring and the summer solstices. As our reading this morning shared, this allows for the harshness of the winter to be securely behind us. Now, a bit of history for you. Beltane was historically celebrated most widely in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. It's one of the four principal Celtic and pagan festivals, along with Samhain, the festival marking the end of the harvest season and coincides with our Halloween. Imbolc, a festival marking the beginning of spring, which is much earlier than what we recognize as the beginning of spring, taking place on February 1st. And I'm not going to be able to say this correctly, but Lughnasadh, the festival marking the beginning of the harvest season, around August 1st typically. You'll notice that these four festivals are pretty much equally spaced every 3 months in a nice calendar. Beltane is mentioned in some of the earliest Irish literature, and it's associated with important events in Irish mythology. Because it marked the beginning of the summer, it was tied to when cattle were driven out into the summer pastures. Rituals were performed to protect the cattle, crops, and people, and to encourage growth. Special bonfires were kindled, and their flames, smoke, and ashes were deemed to have protective powers. The people and their cattle would walk around the bonfire or between two bonfires, and sometimes leap over the flames or embers. All household fires would be doused and then relit from the Beltane bonfire. These gatherings would be accompanied by a feast. Doors, windows, byres, and the cattle themselves would be decorated with yellow Mayflowers, perhaps because they evoked an image of fire. In parts of Ireland, people would make a May bush, a thorn bush decorated with flowers, ribbons, and bright shells. So now that we have a better understanding of the historical and perhaps practical components of Beltane, what of the spiritual component? For Druids and other earth-based religious practitioners, spirituality is woven into the rhythms of daily life, and therefore it's tied closely with the natural elements and the seasons. As an agricultural society, our Celtic ancestors relied on the mercy of nature to ensure their lives, much more so than we do now. And great, powerful natural rhythms and forces were to be both celebrated and feared. This is why the four principal festivals coincide with four important yearly agricultural milestones. So, what natural patterns or milestones do you experience in your life? What is the significance to you, and how do you choose to recognize them? And if you don't recognize them, why not? Pagan spirituality is not just about the magic found in the natural rhythms of everyday life, but can also be just as mystical as any other religious tradition. For example, in my research, I found the description of creatures like fairies or spirits called the AOCC, which is literally translated as people of the mounds, as these fairies were thought to live in the ground in mounds. They're described as ancestors, nature spirits, or goddesses and gods. In Irish mythology, these spirits are said to be the most active during Beltane, and many of the traditional Beltane rituals are done to appease these fairies. Food and drinks, particularly milk, was poured at places associated with these fairies as offerings. In other instances, small amounts of cattle blood was offered in exchange for the safety of the herd. Now, this had me thinking about the similarities between myself and the Druids. Not that I have poured cattle blood at the foot of a tree before, but the many ways in which I and humanity in general attempts to impose a sense of control over situations that are out of our control. For instance, the safety of a herd of cattle could mean the difference between life and death to our ancestors. A bad storm, a bovine epidemic, or predators could mean the loss of a herd, and therefore the loss of a family, or even a village. What a terrifying thing to know that your life and those of your family lay in the indifferent hands of natural cycles. And so perhaps in an effort to create a sense of control over these uncontrollable powers, sacrifices, offerings, and appeasements to magical creatures or gods and goddesses begins. And it may sound silly to some to practice these rituals, but they continue today. I remember having awoken from a bad dream as a child and skeptical of religion as I already was. The only thing I could think to do was pray. And so I prayed over and over again for angels to sit on the posts of my bed to keep me safe from some imaginary harm haunting my dreams. After praying, I remember feeling a sense of peace, and after several minutes, returning to sleep. I felt comforted knowing that I had done something to help myself. And what are those people who wear rally caps, or don't wash their socks or shave their beard during a favorite sports team's winning streak as if doing so would harm the team's chances of winning? Or what about when we behave a certain way, believing that karma will ensure we are rewarded at some other time and place? In each of these instances, we are imposing our own desire for control. I believe it's important to us as a species to feel as though we have power over our own lives and the lives of those we care for. I imagine if we didn't have such rituals and that sense of security we derive from them, the opportunity for tremendous and heart-wrenching loss might consume our every thought and action. What rituals do you do? What circles do you cast? What directions do you call? What offerings do you make? And to whom or what? To the divine? To the spirit of life? To angels? To ancestors? We may be different than the Celtic ancestors and early pagans in how our daily lives look. We may be slightly less susceptible to the elements, and we may even believe we rely less on the natural rhythms of the world. I may never become an agricultural goddess, but the vulnerability of our precious lives and the desire to have control over it has been and likely will always be part of our experience as humans. Blessed be. Our second reading today is by D.H. Lawrence. This spring, as it comes, bursts up in bonfires green, wild puffing of emerald trees and flame-filled bushes, thorn blossom lifting in wreaths of smoke between, where the wood fumes up and the watery, flickering rushes. I am amazed at this spring, this conflagration of green fires lit on the soil of the earth, this blaze of growing and sparks that puff in wild gyration, faces of people streaming across my gaze. And I, what fountain of fire am I among, this leaping combustion of spring? My spirit is tossed about like a shadow buffeted in the throng of flames, a shadow that's gone astray and is lost. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing hymn number 1068, Rising Green, your teal hymnal. Releasing the goddess and the god now. The sun sinks in the night sky. The time has come to say goodbye. Farewell to the Lord of the wood, God of all that is growing and good. We bid you farewell at the ritual end. Fond farewells and blessings we send. Blessed be. The maiden turns them up to mother, as she has now found her new lover. We bid farewell to the maiden of spring, thanking her for all the joy she brings. Thanks to the lady, we are never alone, she that is maiden, mother, and crone. Blessed be. And now I'll release the directions if you'd like to stand with me. I thank you, great Uriel, my love and energy I offer freely to you. In gratitude for your assistance this day, Leave now, if you will, fare you well, and harming none as you go your way. I thank you, great Gabriel. My love and energy I offer freely to you. In gratitude for your assistance this day, leave now, if you will, fare you well, and harming none as you go your way. I thank you, great Michael, my love and energy I offer freely to you. In gratitude for your assistance this day, leave now, if you will, fare you well, and harming none as you go your way. I thank you, great Raphael, my love and energy I offer freely to you. In gratitude for your assistance this day, leave now, if you will, fare you well, and harming none as you go your way. And now we close the circle. You don't have to hold hands. The circle is open but unbroken. Merry meet, merry part, merry meet again. The rite has ended. Please join me in singing our unison chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire